Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whalenerds podcast. My name is Slater. I forgot to introduce myself last week.
It's okay. We knew you were here.
And I'm here with Eric and Caitlin.
Hey, everyone.
And this is episode 7.
Woo!
Can't believe we're already on 7.
Yeah, I know. It feels like we started just last week.
We kind of did.
No.
Maybe 2 weeks.
3 weeks. And I don't think we have a topic yet, but we're going to let these... We got some questions from Instagram, so I think we're going to start with some questions off the Instagram, and then we will just see where those take us.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Question number 1. How long do humpback whales live?
Ooh.
Good question. We actually briefly touched on that on one of our previous episodes about the aging of whales. And most baleen whales out there that we have out here in Monterey Bay were estimating that some of them are probably a little bit longer than the human lifespan, maybe about 80 years or so. But we do know some of our bowhead whales in the Arctic are living 150 years plus. So there's a lot of ways out there that they're trying to determine the exact ages of these animals. So it's still kind of a hot topic out there. Good whale research, believe it or not, really hasn't started since the early 70s, because in the 70s, pre-70s, a lot of when we saw a whale, we didn't go, oh man, these things are wonderful, we need to save them. We were looking at a whale and going, hey man, that's like 100 barrels of whale oil there. That's gonna be a lot of money in my pocket. So some of the whales that we're keeping track of are currently still alive, and I do know a lot of you, obviously, you're listening because you're fans of marine wildlife, but some of you might recall the granny story. There are some extreme accounts that she was probably 100 plus years old, and there are some more conservative figures that she was a lot younger than that. So that's still kind of a hot debate too.
But
even
still,
though
You saw Granny?
in her
I saw
late
Granny,
80s.
yeah.
I didn't, unfortunately.
You guys are jumping on the bandwagon of the was. She gone.
She gone, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, you know what?
What?
What's the happiest whale? No, what's the oldest whale on Happy Whale?
Ooh.
That's a good question.
I was trying to look it up.
Maybe when Ted comes back, he might be able to let us know.
I know Cascadia has photos from the early 80s for sure, like pre-splash program.
I think even beyond that, yeah.
Yeah, because what we tell people sometimes after I've been talking to Ted and John Calamakitis is, some of these whales already looked like old whales in the 81 to 85 catalog. So how old are they really? Because they're still alive.
Yeah, so ages could definitely vary by species. I do know there was one bottlenose that recently passed that was, I think, close to the 60-year-old mark.
All right, so I found it. And the longest intervals between sightings is 40 years, 3 months, and 3 days.
Is that the one?
That's on Happy Whale.
Is that the Alaska one?
Let me look. That is... No, Newfoundland.
Oh.
And Bermuda.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, and didn't we learn that right whales from the talk that even those whales might be pushing close to 100?
Yeah. Some people even speculate blue whales live close to 100 years.
And then not even that far behind this one, 40 years and 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
And that whale...
Between sightings.
Yeah, between sightings.
Yeah, which that's also impressive. Is like you think you've lost track of a whale for 10 to 15 years, and then all of a sudden you see it again.
Yeah, so overall, it does look like our big, our mysticetes, our baleen whales, are quite long-lived. Odontocetes probably a close second. And then as far as little odontocetes, we do know our porpoise out there actually have probably the shortest lifespan as far as cetaceans go.
Yeah. Something in the range of 15 to 20 years is probably normal for a porpoise, but they'd be on the shorter end of things.
Yeah, so good question. Still, I guess, mentioned in the previous episode, it's science,
I think that
still trying to figure it out.
That was one of those questions that I think I asked in my introduction to marine mammals class, or I was like dumbfounded that I was like, wait, why don't we know? Why don't we know how long they live? And it was like, Caitlin, we don't know.
Yep, we definitely do not know.
Which is pretty awesome.
I feel like Nemo's dad right now, remember? If you see a sea turtle, ask him how old he is.
Oh, yeah. Ask him how old he is.
Ask him how old he is.
All right, next question. Do you know any European places to go see orca whales apart from Norway?
Where did
Slater,
you go?
yeah, you traveled. I've stuck close to home.
I know that they see them in Iceland. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they see them during the winter time in Iceland.
Yeah.
But they do see them in the summer, but it's not as frequently.
Yeah.
Um,
You can. I don't think it's a regular thing, but I have heard of sightings a couple times a year off the Canary Islands, which is technically off the coast of Africa. They
I've
see
heard
them.
of off Ireland before
Yeah,
too, but
I was
think
gonna
it's
say.
super rare.
I was gonna say. I think in the North Sea or something. There's a small population, but those killer whales are actually really in trouble too. The ones they see around like Ireland and Scotland, those ones are suffering from a lot of pollutant issues in the water.
Yeah, and we might start seeing more whales pop up. Not that they weren't popping up before, but because of social media and stuff, we might start learning more about killer whales being in other places in Europe.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they were
When we
pretty
find out, we'll let you know.
cosmopolitan, Yeah.
They are a whale that moves so much too. You know, our killer whales can easily move 100+ miles a day. So
Yeah.
huge ranges on these animals.
All right. Well, we got a question about how are the whales affected by climate change?
That is an ongoing question that's being investigated. There's some things that happen with climate change also in relation to ocean acidification are going to have ramifications down the line.
Yeah.
Like
krill.
Yeah, krill species are going to be affected by the acidity of the ocean because of their ability to make their shells. And so if krill stocks dwindle, then animals that are dependent on krill, like blue whales, are really going to have a hard time.
And Slater, what's that documentary you forced us to watch? That
I
was
just
really
gonna say
good
that
about
to you.
that.
But yeah, if the sea ice isn't there, then that's where the krill are breeding.
Yeah, let me
underneath,
look up the
right?
name. You
Yep,
made me watch
yep,
it. It was really good. I
exactly.
actually saved it.
Yeah, so in the Antarctic especially, that's where that could become a big problem really fast, is the krill down there, it shelters under the sea ice. And is that when they breed?
Yeah, they're breeding under the sea ice.
Yeah, so if there's less habitat, then there's less ability for them to breed.
And the krill are feeding on the sea. They're feeding on like a bacteria or something.
Underneath
What is
the
it that's
ice.
growing
There
on
was
the
something
ice?
actually
Algae or
coating under the
something.
ice. Yeah, that they'll feed off of.
And in the short term, that could mean really good eating for whales because the krill are exposed. But in the long term, that doesn't lead to a bigger krill population.
Yeah. All right. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll
Are you
bring up that
krilling me?
name
You
later.
forgot?
But
Find that
what
krill stuff.
You guys just missed my joke.
You're krilling me. What I also know a lot of scientists have said is the beaked shall inherit the earth in the face of climate change. So cephalopods, squid species are going to do well in the face of climate change, which means animals that eat those species like beaked whales and Rizzo's dolphins and pilot whales, they're going to survive because they will have prey as long as they can get into a good temperature range that they're going to be able to tolerate. Did you find it?
I seem to have forgot my Netflix password. So.
I don't know mine either. It's not even mine. It's my grandma's.
Let me rescue you guys. Let me rescue you guys. Let me log it in on my phone.
Is it crazy? I don't even have my own Netflix.
Everybody else is on mine. I'm the page.
Well, we can answer another question
look it
while you're looking.
Yeah,
it up.
definitely. Go for it.
Let's see.
Gray whales are also going to survive climate change because they're super hardy.
All right. So the question is most bizarre encounter while out at sea. What are you thinking? You guys both like turned your head. At the same time.
There's a few.
The weirdest thing I've seen. There's two things that I say to people and they're like, "What?" One, I've seen a freezer floating out in the ocean, and two, I've seen a dead cow floating out in the ocean. But as far as wildlife, I think one of the more bizarre things I've seen is these juvenile killer whales put a mola like on their forehead, on their melon, and like balanced it out of the water. So their head was out of the water and the mola was on top of their head.
Was it still whole?
Yeah, they were like, and then later they threw it like a frisbee. They like chucked it with their mouth. It was really weird.
They are frisbees, not just for killer whales, but for sea lions.
Sea lions, yeah.
What if there's something
true.
else that likes to just throw around? I feel bad for them. They're like perfect little circles that people just want to skip like a rock.
Yeah, see it a lot out there, unfortunately. Some of our divers out here locally will actually find mola with no fins just kind of sitting on the bottom of the seafloor.
Sad.
Yeah, they have a hard life in the Monterey Bay.
Yeah.
And they are bizarre looking too. I mean, they're a pretty bizarre animal. We encounter them regularly, but to most people, I mean, think of that Boston sunfish video that went viral.
Yeah. I know. Actually, when I
Yeah.
put them on my story, like, you know, we pull up the big ones, people are like, "What, alien?" Like, you know,
It's
people.
a baby whale, Jay.
Yeah.
It's a tuna, bro.
It's a flounder, Jay.
That's a YouTube video. That video is on YouTube. If you guys want to look it up. I
Just
don't know what
type
it's
in
called.
Boston sunfish. It'll come up.
Yeah, I've had some. I mean, I don't know. You can kind of consider them bizarre yet kind of life-changing too. I remember one of my first few whale watching trips I was doing when I was back at the aquarium. We were just flying down the coast, and we were with some offshore bottlenose dolphins, but they just happened to be going where we were going because we got word that there were some gray whales at a certain location. So we're heading there, and then we eventually got to an area where we started seeing the gray whales, and we started slowing down. And the offshore bottlenose kind of, kind of slowly drifting back. But one of them kept on like keeping up at the bow, as we kind of, came to a stop. And this thing actually got its head out of the water, turned back and looked at me like eye to eye and started vocalizing like typical like what you would imagine seeing like in a movie or in one of your dreams. It just looked at me eye to eye and go like vocalizing like I don't speak dolphin, offshore bottlenose dolphin, but you kind of got the idea.
Oh, but you speak common?
Yeah,
I
I speak common.
dolphin.
Yeah,
Long beak,
a little bit of lag too, but this dolphin, I mean, I didn't have to speak dolphin, but you could just tell it was probably telling me, hey, what are you doing? I was having fun. Get this boat going again. I want a bow ride.
I had a killer whale vocalize at me for like 9 straight seconds. Just like,
Yeah, that's amazing. But
I want some vocalization in my face.
as far as bizarre and unique stuff, I'm sure all three of us could probably write a book about the collections of stuff that I've seen.
that humpback whale this summer that was like, looked like it was broken in the shallow water. That was pretty funny. Did you see that whale this summer?
No.
It like
No.
did these weird.
I've never had a bizarre event.
Me and the captain were calling it Gumby because it was like putting its head and its tail up at the
yeah.
same time and like making this big
really?
U shape with its body, and then it was like, we think it was doing a headstand. It was in such shallow water, its face had to be in the bottom and its tail was up. Like it was doing all kinds of weird stuff.
Now I remember something weird. I remember one of my first trips here, working on the boat, and we were just chugging along, and then we were going quite slow. And then I just happened to be in the back of the boat with Britt, and I just look off, and just right below the surface of the ocean, I see something big and white, about 4 feet long, floating in the water. So I'm like, what is that? I actually yelled loud enough that our captain slowed down, and he kind of circled back a little and backed up a little so we can take a look at it. What it was actually a huge chunk of, it looked like squid. It was probably about a good 3 inches thick and 4 feet long. And I was like, this has to be, either, giant or colossal squid. It's a piece of it. We got to get this, And even though it was below the surface, you could smell it. Our captain was like, you are not bringing that on board my boat. I'm like, might be important, this is just a piece of it. It's 4 feet long. He's like, nope. I was like, oh, okay. But
What about sunfish eating Valella?
oh yeah,
That was
you
a cool
seen
one.
that?
Yeah, it's so
That's
funny because
pretty bizarre.
sunfish have big, they're basically like googly eyes. Like,
Yeah.
those things that, like, the eyes that you glue to a paper and
Yes.
they shake. Like,
And the mouth is
they,
neat,
like,
too.
go cross-eyed and, and, like, go head-on towards these. It's hard to explain a Valella.
A by the wind sailor. It's like a little disc that has its own sail and then little blue tentacles hanging down off the bottom.
Yeah, but it's funny to watch them slurp them down.
Yeah.
Or miss them and then have to circle back for it.
The best is when they miss them and they like do this pretty quick turn for how awkward their body is. They like do a hairpin turn to try and go back for it.
Just one day in Newport, we had 4 or 5 sea lions take down 4 or 5 thresher shark in like less than 5 minutes.
I saw your pics of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I had literally I was filming a whale with my drone, and this happened, and then I obviously went over and filmed that, and I got 3 or 4 different ones, and I saw fresh kills, where the
Wow.
one got out of the way, or it let go of it, or didn't mean to let go of it, but the shark skid out of the way, and then it went back down, grabbed it, pulled it back up.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. That's a pretty bizarre thing to watch. I mean, they could eat that. They could do that underwater,
And like watching them whip it with that big long tail,
Yeah.
the thresher shark.
Oh yeah, those thresher
Like
sharks.
I've seen them eat. You've seen them eat smooth hounds and stuff like that before.
Yeah.
But 4 or 5 of them, and right then it was just like.
I saw a sea lion eat a big skate, and it was like the wingspan of the skate was almost as long as the sea lion. I was like, holy
Really?
moly.
Out here?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've
like
seen it. What is
2
it?
3 years ago.
Guitar.
Guitar shovel nose.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
shovel nose. Yeah.
So for those of you maybe haven't seen a California sea lion eat something, they shake it like a dog. They like rip it, they thrash it on the water, they smack it on the water.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting to watch.
They're basically just tearing pieces off of it and then swallowing it down because they
Yeah.
can't swallow the shark down
Yeah,
whole. Obviously.
and they don't have they can't use their flippers to help like pull it apart in pieces. So they just shake it and rip it and throw it.
Which is funny is I feel like harbor seals do use their flippers.
They do.
Because they have like sea lions have claws underneath
Yeah.
theirs too, but the harbor seals you can really see them. I feel
Yeah,
like,
the harbor seal front flippers are not their main like locomotion. They don't.
They
push
use
with
their
their flippers.
harbor
they-
seals use the
so
rear to propel
I think
themselves,
they have
and
different dexterity on the front.
yeah, and then sea lions use
flippers.
the front flippers to propel them. Yeah.
in their hind to steer.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a super bizarre story for the ocean.
What?
I don't know. I saw pufferfish once in Newport.
That's cool.
What about your offshores eating?
Where would the
sharks?
pufferfish come from?
Well, the
I
last
don't know
few,
what type it was. So
yeah, the pufferfish actually. There's been a lot spotted during the El Ninos. In fact,
okay, so that's
there's a few kinds that been showing up. I want to say, is it the sharp-nosed puffer
say it was,
that's
like,
been
kinda
showing
bluish.
up in Southern California? Also, there was a report of a porcupine fish off of the Long Beach breakwater, and a fisherman actually saw it and caught it and actually took it to the Aquarium of the Pacific, and it actually was on display for a little bit up in the
okay.
in one of their displays. So yeah,
He just brings us in.
Yeah.
I thought that's
Hi, I
pufferfish
think
for
you need this.
yeah, they actually brought it into the aquarium. The aquarium actually did notice it was kind of a good thing. It didn't look too hot, and it actually lived up in the upstairs in their Baja California exhibit. Forgot the exact name of that enclosure, but yeah, it was there, and I actually have a few pictures of it. So yeah, those pufferfish did show up in a few types.
What about
Actually
your,
showed up in California.
your Oarfish sea snake stuff?
Oh god, I don't even want to talk about that stuff anymore. But the Oarfish, yeah, was actually found off of the Trump golf course a few years ago, and parts of it were recovered. I think Cal State Fullerton actually got the stomach contents of it, and I just took the head, and that was it. And if you guys don't know what oarfish are, they're a type of fish we actually kind of don't know much about. They are a fish that is quite long, and there actually is one on display at the Natural History Museum that's about 13 to 14 feet long, and they're kind of funny. They kind of swim like in the vertical position, and they don't have really strong muscles. Their flesh is really mushy, and they kind of swim vertically, hoping for like small inverts, krill, and stuff to kind of swim by, and they'll gulp them up. And there's been a few spotted in the Philippines, Japan. In fact, in Japan, when they start showing up in good numbers, they think it's a sign of something bad about to happen, like an omen, like earthquakes or something like that.
I think that if you Google it, there's a picture of one on Catalina, right?
Yeah,
With
in fact,
it's like really long.
that one was found right before I found mine, and right before I found mine, there was also a few found in La Jolla. That particular summer, there were a lot of them showing up in California waters, and this is a pretty rare fish to find alive, and even to find dead, obviously. So it's they're pretty well documented because of the rarity of it when they are seen.
All right. Well, when I find something bizarre, I will let you guys know. I'm sure I just can't believe it.
We're gonna end this recording, and you're gonna be like, "Oh man!"
Yeah, it's kind of a loaded question because like things that are bizarre to most people, we don't think are bizarre. Is the other thing.
I mean, like seeing a leatherback turtle eating jellyfish, have jellyfish stringing out his mouth is pretty bizarre. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not bizarre. It's just like rare to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of rare things. Like when I was working on the fishing boat, the ratfish is a pretty cool. Bizarre.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bizarre fish.
Yeah, ratfish
Yeah.
chimera are really
Yeah.
cool.
Or slime eels are bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think about encounters when you're with whales in really thick fog. It's not necessarily even something you see. Just everything about the encounter. Like the fog is really thick, and you're smelling for whales or you're listening for whales. You don't actually usually see the whale first. You're using your other senses to find them. And then especially when you're the naturalist trying to explain to the passengers what you're doing.
And breaching blue whales and fin whales is technically kind of bizarre too. I think a few of us experienced that.
Yeah.
Those are rare occasions.
All right. So let's go to another question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I would love to know more about the history of pilot whales on the California coast.
Ooh,
So
very,
would we. No, just
very,
kidding.
very
They
good
are
question.
mysterious.
You have your notes on
Yeah,
yet?
I do.
Okay. So it's funny you mentioned that because myself and Caitlin just happened to come back from the Southern California Marine Mammal Workshop, and there actually was a talk about this.
Tom Jefferson.
But just to put it in plain, quick little, Cliff Notes form, we think it's a little to do with climate change and a little bit to do with, and that obviously leads to the shift. I shouldn't really say climate change, more than shift. We have this traditional shift in currents in our ocean that could happen about every 10 years, more or less. And what happens is that even causes food to shift. So that obviously can lead to different animals coming into places. So there's a few theories about that, but I think Caitlin actually has notes regarding this matter. So take it away.
Yeah. So Tom Jefferson also collaborated with Elisa Schulman-Janiger. I think they had a poster at a conference too.
Yeah.
But Tom presented talking about the shortfin pilot whales in Southern California. There are sightings going back all the way to the 1920s. But from the 1950s to the 1980s, they were really common around around Catalina Island. They considered them like residents of Catalina Island. And then starting in the mid-1980s, there was a big decline. They think a lot of it has to do with the 1982-1983 El Nino because the squid fishery crashed. But there also was increasing fishing pressure out at Catalina for market squid, so like those purse seining boats. And they do use acoustic deterrents for sea lions, but those also can affect odontocetes in the area that are very sensitive to sound. They're like these little firecrackers that they put in the nets to spook the sea lion out. They
Seal
call them
bombs.
Seal bombs.
Yeah.
I think we talked about those, right?
Yeah.
On
So
like-
between the disturbance and then the competition for food and then this fishery crashing, that may have encouraged them to shift out of the area. But they also were heavily targeted for live captures, especially pre-1970s, for marine land. So they were caught to be put on display in aquariums.
Yeah, some of us from Southern California might remember Bubbles. So
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
had a history of removals from habitat that have been recorded from 1952 to 2014. 45 were bycatch in different fisheries. 108 were strandings. 76 were live captured. 3, I think, were found dead on the beach with no cause of death. And they also, Catalina Island is not too far away from where they test naval sonar, and that sometimes the locations of that are not always disclosed, so you don't know how close the pilot whales may have been, especially with that 108 strandings. Pilot whales are one of those species that do mass strand, so they'll end up on the beaches in like the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s numbers, and so they're kind of more susceptible to things like that. Rizzo's dolphins are more common now in Southern California. They don't know if like they're filling a niche that was emptied or if there was some kind of like competition between pilot whales or Rizzo's, but kind of the long and short of it is that they used to be really abundant and now they're not. And Tom was kind of like, this is really perplexing. Like, this seems to have happened right under our noses and we missed it.
Yeah, so a lot of possible factors. El Nino being too warm, squid usually will shift to the cooler waters, and the bycatch issue. Yeah, so there's a lot of that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Still
I've
kind of
only seen
a thought. Yeah.
the shortfin pilot whales
What's going on?
2 times in Newport Beach. And I'm pretty sure they were a year apart.
Was
And
it close to
I'm
shore or
pretty sure they
pretty-
were in the same month a year apart.
Wow. Was it pretty far offshore or close to shore?
No, we were like right off the Newport coast. Like,
Oh, wow.
Right
Okay.
there.
Wow.
Yeah. It was. I was on Newport Coastal's boat, and then I think Dolphin Safari came up too. It's just 2 Zodiacs out there with
Yeah.
us.
Last
of
I
the
saw
evenings.
was like tuna fishing. It's usually the backside of Catalina or all the way towards closer to San Clemente. We run into them on occasions.
Yeah, I've only seen them. I saw them on a survey ship. We were off of Point Conception. I think we were over 100 miles from shore. And they just like buzzed across the bow of the boat. We got a few photos, confirmed the species, and that was it.
They're so neat looking. Those dorsal fins are just weird looking. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Hooked,
Yeah,
like they're
they're hooked.
they're
low and hooked. Yeah.
they're kind of like I would say kind of like a Pacific white-sided, but like more
Even more. It's
Yeah.
really low. Yeah.
yeah, and thicker. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was
That's
a
a good
very
way to
good
describe
question,
it.
and that's that what Caitlin said are a number of the thoughts out there about why these animals are such a rarity off our coast, even though they're almost like like we said earlier, they were like almost residents in the Catalina Island area.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to know what to make of all that, whether that means that their population just went through a major decline and that's why we don't see them, or did they shift their habitat because of all those things, or is it both? Like there was a decline in the population that changed the cultural structure of those groups that would be around Catalina, and so then there was like this fission fusion thing going on with the pods, and then they all just kind of scattered. You do see that in other species like wolves, when the pack like loses an alpha, and then like everything the pecking order gets rearranged. Sometimes the pack's completely split into 2 or 3 groups, and some groups don't make it because the culture got broken and there's no leader anymore. So that could be happening with Odontocetes too. Carl Safina actually talks about that in what's the name of his book? Beyond Words. He talks a little bit about that with different types of animals, and killer whales is one of them, and pilot whales are in that blackfish family with killer whales and have strong cultural ties too, which is also why they mass strand. Some scientists believe like there could be just one whale sick and the other whales won't leave it, and they all go to the boat. All go to the beach together, and they all end up dying, even though only one of them was sick.
Well,
should we talk about something less depressing?
Yeah, find another question.
a lot of the questions are just repeated. Like how long do humpback whales live? It's back to the killer whale. Where's the best place to see killer whales in the wild? And I think that this is kind of a hard question to answer, because you could say that Monterey is the best in April and May, or you could say that in San Juan Islands is the best during July to October, or
Southeast Alaska is good. Yeah.
Yeah, it really. I think they travel so much that it's really hard to say when the best is.
Yeah, I mean they see them really consistently in the wintertime in Norway too, in the fjords when they're feeding on the herring. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Western Australia, they're pretty consistent.
Yeah, right now they're seeing. I mean, there's places that you can guarantee see them during like their peak times. I would say there's a peak couple weeks of a year, or a month in a year, a couple months in a year.
Yeah.
That you can see them, but it's not like every single day of the year.
You just gotta keep on going whale watching.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
What
but
I was
like
gonna
the hot spots would be like Southeast Alaska, San Juan Islands, Monterey, Western Australia, Iceland, Norway.
Yeah. San Juan Islands, and then here in Monterey is where I've had the best luck. I think in my log that I checked, I think it was 4 days in a row was my record here. And
I think
in
I
Monterey,
have like 10 plus days in a row.
And then San Juan, I've had like transients. I've had days where transients and residents, day after day after day. So
you have 4 days in a row since you've lived here.
Since I lived here,
okay,
yeah.
But because they've been here more than 4 days in a row.
Yeah, I've had seasons where we've had like 10 to 14 days in a row. I'd have to go look at my notes.
I felt like me and you.
That first week I moved here was intense. It was like every day.
If you want to see killer whales, just move to Monterey, and you'll see them for your first week when you move here. But then after that, they won't come by. Like it's like to get you in.
Yeah,
get you hooked.
My first day of moving here, I remember jumping on.
I told you
the high spirits, and I had Emma in her pod porpoising out of the water. I was like, "That's a nice welcome to Monterey."
Yeah.
And then working on the other boat, same thing. I was like, "What's going on here?"
When I moved here, one of my best breaches, the one that goes it's shared the most.
I know, and that was in the fall.
You
too.
were on the
it
boat.
wasn't even peak season.
It was like November. Yeah, it was November, like November 13th, 1982. No, it's November 13th. But you and I, and John and Daniel and Elisa, we were all looking at this one killer whale breach right at us.
Yep. Yeah. It was a pretty awesome day. It was really nice sunset.
And then a humpback whale breached.
Oh yeah, for 40 minutes.
We're watching this pod, and a humpback whale breached all the way from the first buoy leaving the harbor all the way out
to Asilomar.
Yeah.
Like around Point Pinos.
Yeah. It just kept going. It breached its way right through a pod of killer whales. He was just like, I'm gonna go through this area, but you can't touch me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was.
That's
bizarre.
That's bizarre.
I mean. Yeah.
That was seriously 40 minutes straight of breaching that.
Yeah,
we were all like, oh yeah, look at that. I remember I was narrating because I was natural. So I was like, oh yeah, there's that humpback over there still breaching. We're so focused on the killer whales. And finally we're like, God, we have to go watch this humpback now because this thing has been breaching for 40 minutes.
What's your record? I had a combination of breaching and chin slapping. I think it was over 70 times a few years ago.
Dude, I lose count.
Yeah,
honestly,
I
I can't count that. I look at the time.
I actually stopped counting after around 70.
We had
whoa.
that, I think you were on the boat this summer. We had a calf that just did it over and over and over.
We had so many breaching calves this
The
summer.
calves were just going nuts.
Yeah, it was a good
All
year
checked
with active calves this year.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I think we're honestly out of questions on the Instagram. So,
Okay.
what do you guys want to talk about? Wait, what did you see today, Eric?
Oh, today? You know what? I'm starting to see the Northbounders today. So I did check out the reports from Elisa's group down south. With the their counts, and I noticed some Northbounders. So I was expecting some. So yeah, lo and behold, today had some Northbounders and some Southbounders. So it's always around mid-February where you get that time where the whales literally cross each other's paths. Like, hey, have fun in Baja. All right, see you in Alaska. So.
And we're talking gray whales.
Yeah, we had gray whales. So I'm talking about gray whales. We're in mid-February. Once again, is usually that transition period. So you'll start seeing your Northbounders. And what else interesting I had today?
What did you see in the harbor on your way back?
Yeah, we actually had a mature, not mature at all, but a maturing, I should say, northern elephant seal.
Eric's lost.
You said southern. You threw me off.
I said subadult.
So that was a northern elephant seal. Inside our harbor, and that's quite a rare sighting to have inside our harbor. Usually you have to head over to Año Nuevo or San Simeon to see these animals, but we do get animals sometimes way offshore. But to see one in the harbor, a male with that big old cool nose, hanging out right under the sea lions at the what we usually refer to as the Coast Guard pier out here. So it was a really cool sighting, and I did post up some pictures on our company site, and I'll put some on my personal account if you guys follow me on Instagram or Facebook.
And that big old nose is for the mating call, really, right?
Yeah, those vocalizations they make are pretty intense. Yeah,
that's pretty good. I've seen a juvenile harbor seal and a juvenile elephant seal follow each other around the harbor. I was I got down really early to the boat in the morning, and I was getting it ready. And then the slip next to us was empty, and this little harbor seal and elephant seal were just swimming in circles together in the empty slip.
Yeah, and then our buddy Brian had that little footage of that younger elephant seal within our harbor. So the young ones, it's not too surprising to see them in the harbor, but to see a male in there was pretty cool.
I feel like there's been more in the harbor the last few years, because earlier last summer we had a wiener hanging out in the harbor just taking a nap over by the sailboats.
And I think I think the situation is exactly like the humpback situation. Population's doing well. You're making a great comeback. Your numbers are going up. So obviously the animals are going to be more spread out everywhere. So.
Yeah. And if you guys don't know what a wiener is, that's a young seal or elephant seal, right?
That's been weaned from its mom.
Yeah, that's been okay. Yeah. So
yeah, it was during the summer, so it was molting too. So its skin was all icky.
All right, I know we can talk about. Actually, you brought it up, and I just stole it. What is your favorite whale movie?
My favorite whale movie is.
Wait, let me guess, because you already told me. The Whale Rider.
Yeah, I like Whale Rider.
Too.
The reason why I like Whale Rider
is
because I actually like how it if you haven't seen it yet, well, I shouldn't even give it away. But anyway, it's based on a story by the Maori, and it just kind of shows you how whales have gone so far back in so many different cultures. All the way down the South Pacific, and obviously up north towards Alaska and Canada. You can see how the cetaceans have been a big part of these people's cultures for centuries. So I like that factor. And as far as books go, oh man,
I didn't even say anything about books.
You did.
No, I took it out.
You took it back.
I just said
no take back.
I just said what.
No take backs. I'm going to talk about books now.
Well, no one wants to read. This is a podcast for listeners.
Audiobooks.
Well, being a big nerd, my favorite book is. I like E. Robustus.
Of course you do.
The books I read are more reference books. I'm a big nerd.
That's gray whale and science talk.
Yeah, but that's what the book's called. That's all it is.
E. Robustus.
Yeah, that one's really good. And there's this one book on blue whales that was decent. Was it Wild Blue? Was it the one I recommended?
Yeah, I've read 13 books in my life, Eric.
Because
they were all in the last year.
Because he listens to the rest. But yeah, I have a lot of books. It's hard to pick a favorite, but those are the ones I actually look at over and over again.
Well, my favorite whale movie is Flipper.
Nice.
Is that illegal?
No. Why would it be illegal?
Because he's a captive dolphin.
I mean, Eric's closeted a Free Willy fan. That's really should be his number one.
Yeah. In fact, people used to always ask me about like how I got into the field, and I always tell them, well, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I was kind of a bad kid, and
I had a harmonica.
Because one day I stole some food out of a catering truck, and the cops were looking for me, and they found me. So I started running away, and I hid inside this marine park.
This sounds like the plot of Free Willy.
And it takes about 10 minutes. People realize, that I'm saying that. And
Can you start bringing a harmonica to work again?
huh? Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. That usually calls in the orca when we play the harmonica.
In Flipper, I like that he uses the torch to make his toast on the wall. You know what I'm talking about?
I've never seen that version.
What do you mean that version? It's a movie. It's the main one.
I'm just used to the
Is there a Flipper too?
TV show.
There's a TV show.
Yeah, but normal people don't know the TV show.
What?
Normal people.
That was.
Just
I thought
kidding.
was that before the movie?
I didn't know there was a TV show.
Yeah, I thought it started as a TV show, or did it start as a movie?
I don't know. We need to talk to Rick O'Berry.
Wait. I was gonna say, who was what's his name that lives here, that films the whales?
Bob Talbot.
Bob Talbot.
Did he work on that movie, or what movie did he work on?
He used to do those big
filmed-
posters.
He
and
actually
stuff.
filmed I think he filmed the beginning of a Free Willy. That scene with Granny in the beginning, opening credits.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's
probably.
Granny's in the beginning of that movie.
The J-pop.
Yeah, that's J-Pod in the beginning of Free Willy.
Wow.
You'll clearly see Granny and her little bite mark in that middle of that dorsal.
What? What's the bite mark from? Salmon.
It might not even.
Just kidding.
It might not even be a bite mark.
Each other. Favorite book. I don't know. Yours is probably the same as mine. Slater right now. Spying on Whales.
Yeah, I told you I don't have very many books. Unless do you want to like?
But I don't know. I mean, Nick Pyenson, he's a really good writer. He reads the audiobook too, and he's a really good it's really easy to listen to, and he's a really good science communicator. So I really like that book, not only for the how good he is at his craft and communicating it, but also the content.
It's a good book. I learned a lot. I've honestly listened to it 3 times. I actually fall asleep to it. What? I did last night or not last night. The night before.
A couple of days ago, you told us, yeah. It's definitely a good book. It's one of my favorites right now.
Yeah.
Eric is afraid to pick it up for some reason.
I read my books in order. I have 3 or 4 other
Who
books. Who
puts a list of books on their wall and is like,
people with OCD, Slater.
Dude, just read it.
I mean, I do, but then sometimes I'm like, nah, forget it. I'm gonna go right in the middle.
First off, it takes me at least every 6 years I get a new book. So I usually just read them when I get them. It's so hard for me to find them. The book has to be a story.
Yeah.
A good story.
Yeah. It's true.
That guy, Nick Pyenton, has another book that I was looking at.
Didn't you just get it, Eric?
It's a book by another gentleman, actually. I think he's a German paleontologist. The Walking Whales.
Is that the one you're talking about?
No,
no,
I don't know, but it wasn't on Audible, so I didn't get it. I like to listen.
It is nice, actually. I listen to it while I'm biking too.
Dude, when I'm popping wheelies on my bike, I don't got time to flip through pages.
Dude, I'm not popping wheelies. I'm trying to get through my cold bike ride in the morning.
It is cold, but by the time I get there, it's a little less cold.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it for us on our books and movies.
Yes.
When we get new books, we will definitely let you guys know. We've said that in our previous episodes. But if there's any good whale movies that you guys can recommend. And I don't like watching movies like The Cove. Or I mean, we watched Blackfish again. But those are just so sad,
Yeah. We also started a resource page on our Podbean site where we've been adding resources that we talked about, like books, documentaries, email listservs, websites to check up on, social media accounts to follow, where we get a lot of information from. So if you have something you want us to look into that maybe we don't know of, and we can add it to the list, or if you're looking for what we're looking at when we're referencing these things in the podcast, they're starting to be a growing list on the Podbean part of our podcast site.
Yeah, we'll definitely try to keep that updated.
Yes, for sure.
All right, well, episode 7 in the books. Thank you guys for listening.
Woo-hoo.
If you don't follow us on Instagram, make sure you follow us. It's Whalenerds. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, send us some more topics to talk about. We're having fun answering your questions.
All right, guys. So once again, thanks for listening. It's been really fun, and hopefully you guys give us some more cool topics to talk about. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Peace.